I'm Christine Schiavone, and our show is Spiritual Exploration. I am here with a special guest, Christopher Dowling, who heads up most of, if not all, the food pantries here on Staten Island. And I visited some of these pantries to see how it works. And the pantry that I visit on Castleton Avenue and Caroline Street is where I see Christopher all the time. And he is a very spiritual man, and I feel that running food pantries is a very spiritual subject because we're helping people who otherwise might not get enough nourishment. So I am going to turn it over to you for a bit, Christopher, and ask you, first of all, how did you get involved in this?
So I actually started a food pantry at the beginning of the pandemic when I was the director of another organization called the Staten Island Community Partnership. And the Staten Island Community Partnership was a organization that brings together many different nonprofits, government agencies, healthcare organizations to find solutions to the systemic problems that are plaguing our at-risk neighborhoods, specifically for families and children. Through that, when the pandemic hit, we couldn't do anything, right? So we're like, okay, so what do we do now? So we polled a bunch of people in the community, and one of the things that they were saying was that we had a problem with food insecurity. They weren't able to get enough food. The shortages that were happening in the stores, and just the not being able to travel easily and get around. So I saw that food pantries, had been popular on Staten Island for a while, and had a large amount of people coming to them already. But we were in Stapleton at the time, and we said, you know what? There's a lot of opportunity here that we can help the local community. So we formed a pantry, and it was a very simple one at the time. We would fill a bag full of groceries by hand, with just a few people. And we would literally open the door and hand the bag out to the person, like because of COVID, you didn't want to expose yourself.
Take any chances.
And it worked out really well, but one of the problems was that was owned. The building was owned by the New York Foundling, who was our backbone organization, and they were going to close that building. So we were looking for another place to go. And at the time, I had met a gentleman named Gabriele Delmonico, who is the president and CEO of A Chance in Life, which is an international organization dedicated. Their mission is to empower young people through education, development, and leadership to better their lot in lives. So these are at-risk young people from at-risk neighborhoods who really need to, some guidance. And he had started, it's an international organization. It was started in 1945, actually, by an Irish Catholic priest who was stationed at the Vatican. And he saw the need because there was a bunch of young people, as I always like to use the term street urchins, that they were running around Rome with nothing to do, causing havoc, stealing, and not getting educated. So this priest, his name was Carol Abington, and he decided that he would create a home for them. And they started living there, but part of the problem was they would disappear after a couple of weeks, a month or so, and he never understood why until he started talking to them more closely. And it turned out that they wanted to maintain their independence. Here they were living for sometimes several years on the street, and they wanted to maintain that independence and their self-rule, so to speak. And so he created what became the boys and girls towns of Italy through this model.
Really?
And so they would follow that rule where they had their own city or town councils, and they would elect a mayor, and they would move, the children would come in and out, mostly teenagers. And he offered them education right at the locations, and also especially job training and skills-based training so that they could get a job once they left there. But he would keep them there until they were 18 or older. and they're still there. I had the opportunity to go to Italy in last September and actually visit one of them. And it's a wonderful experience to see these young people who are now from not just Italy, but from all over the world who come there. We had a bunch of Ukrainian refugees staying at one of the locations at the beginning of the the war with Russia. And it became a very popular thing. They opened up at one point, they had like 10 different locations in Italy. But then something happened. It worked. So there was less kids who needed help.
Whoa.
So they started taking in kids from other countries, specifically Ethiopia, which used to be a colony of Italy. So they had very close ties there. And they just kept this model going, but they realized that they had something good. So in 2015, they decided to expand out and they opened up into other countries where they partnered with other organizations that were already on the ground doing the same type of work and really financed them and made them into something stronger and more powerful in that country. So now we're in 12 different countries around the world running 37 different programs.
Wow.
And they decided then that at that point that they would move into Staten Island. They did a survey and they looked at risk neighborhoods throughout the city. And they said that the North Shore of Staten Island was underserved in a lot of ways in this area. Actually, there's only one youth drop-in center in the entire borough, which is the Project Hospitality one on Port Richmond Avenue. And the Pride Center has one also, but that's fairly new. And so they decided that here would be a good place to start. So I had met Gabriele through his opening up this organization. I said, hey, you have this beautiful place right on Castellan Avenue. You interested in partnering on doing a pantry? He said, great. They were struggling too because they opened up the week that the pantry opened up in 2020.
That's
I
a
mean,
nice building
that
you
the pandemic started.
Yeah. That's a nice building you got there.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We take a lot of pride in it.
And you can do a lot there.
Yes, yes. So we moved the pantry there in 2021.
Wow.
And we've been successfully running it there every week for the last, for over 3 years now.
Wow.
And
I live on the next block, and I had no idea it was there till a couple months ago or so.
unfortunately, again, because of the pandemic, the programming took a long time to get rolling. Now we have several different youth programs that we run out of there. Again, our main focus is teenagers, but 12 to 24. But the high school age is pretty much our core at the moment. But we're always looking to expand that out to other ends of the spectrum of that age group, and offer different programming for them.
And you have these are the young people that come in and volunteer.
Well, they volunteer, or they come as part of a program that we're running. So, for instance, right now we're running what we're calling the Summer Youth Success Academy. So the young people are coming in during the summer. We're offering them opportunities for community service. We're offering them opportunities to learn. We have many different organizations who come in and we'll either teach them some skills-based items. For instance, the Staten Island Maritime Museum is coming in to teach them knot tying. It's a simple thing that you wouldn't think, right? But knot tying, you use it the rest of your life.
Why
so
not
you
learn it?
understand.
Right, yeah.
So, and then other things which are more education-based. We had, I personally just ran a workshop with them on this week from the city's core, which is the Commission on Racial Equity, which was started a few years ago as a ballot initiative. And what came out of that is that the city needs to lead the charge from the charter on up to say that equity is important, and racial equity and any inequities need to be eliminated. So they came up with 16 points, and we went through the 16 points with the young people and the youth and had them talk about it and explore them and help define them better and make opinions on them and rate whether or not they were valid. And the city the Commission on Racial Equity is doing this throughout the city. And I trained as a facilitator for it with them so that we could run it. And I was so pleased because, one of the other things that we try to convey is civics. A lot of times young people have no clue about how things work in the world.
That's true, yeah.
So we're focusing also making sure they understand that, and that's where leadership comes in. Because if you understand how the world works around you, then you can take a leadership role in helping make changes to it.
That's beautiful.
So, and then, going back to the pantry, so now we've been successfully running the pantry there. We serve, on our full pantry day, we're serving anywhere from 120 to 140 families. And on our non full pantry days, where we call them pantry light, but we call it the free market, it's a play on flea market because those other days we'll give out whatever we get donated. It could be anything from Bomba socks to I just got a big donation from a company called Built Differently that makes T-shirts. We're going to be giving those out this coming week. But it's anything we can get my hands on. Somebody donates clothes, somebody donates household
Of course,
items.
yes. I've seen a lot of things there. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and of course, I do want to mention our good friends at ShopRite, the Mannix family, who have been hugely generous to pantries throughout Staten Island in donating a lot of foodstuffs and money to buy foodstuffs. But they also give us the bakery goods, and now I've also arranged for us to get some of the day old of like Entenmann's and Thomas's, etc. So instead of them just throwing it into the compactor and disposing of it, it's coming
People
to
can
us
use
that
it,
day,
yeah.
and we're giving it away, and it's all good stuff.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
it's really just some of it isn't even out of date. They just might have been changing the display so that it's extra.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they've been extremely generous over the years.
Well, that's really good when places like that are generous with knowing that there are people that need it.
Absolutely.
You know.
And you'll be surprised where you get donations from because there's so many people who want to help other people. And I think that's where the spirituality of the food pantries come in too, which we haven't really explored yet. But when people are able to donate something, even just on an individual level, it fills them with pride and a sense of purpose, and that just that good feeling that they're helping somebody else.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that in itself is spirituality in my mind.
Absolutely.
That they're able to help another person, and really isn't that what life's all about? Is
It
that
gives you a good feeling, an
Yeah.
uplifting feeling that you've done something good and that you've improved someone else's life, even if it's just for a day.
exactly?
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I see the people that are out there, and a lot of them look like they really could use the help.
Absolutely.
The other day I was watching, they're walking out of there with, I don't know where they got all that stuff from, but so who had a microwave oven and who had a file cabinet and
It's you'd be surprised. People,
what you get, yeah.
I got a gentleman who was basically cleaning out his house, and he ran a yard sale one day, and I participate in a community garden in my neighborhood, and he goes, "Hey, Chris, I'm done with the thing. You want this? Anything that didn't sell?"
Right.
I'm like, "Sure, why not?"
Well,
So
put
I
it
bought
out,
over
never
a
know.
whole truckload of stuff. Every single piece of that went.
I'm sure people
So
they
because it
walk
was
off
good
and stuff.
stuff too. It wasn't
yeah.
garbage at
Right,
all.
exactly.
It was all good stuff and usable.
Yeah.
And people just love it. And I'm always looking for those opportunities. There's a wonderful site called Free Cycle that's online. You can join it and you can donate through there. I'm always looking at that every day to see if there's something that I could use for the pantry. A woman yesterday had other bags, so bags. We always need bags to give out,
Right.
and nowadays people are always getting these bags from the supermarket and wind up, or they forget to bring them back. So
Right.
now all of a sudden they have 100 different bags.
So
So she made a donation of a bunch of bags, like she had like 50 of them.
you could
And
use
we'll
them.
just use them at the pantry to help people. So when they forget their bags to bring, now we have some bags to hand out.
Right.
And they cost a lot of money. So that's a huge savings for us because now I can spend the money on buying food
Right.
as opposed to, have to buy bags.
Where would you buy food? You get discounted somewhere or something?
So yeah, one is we'll take a donation of food, no question about it. We do ask people who donate food though that they are giving us, you know, newly expired or not expired food. Let me.
Or canned goods?
Yes, canned goods usually don't or have long expiration dates.
Right.
And let me explain that just for a minute. It's not an expiration date; it's a sell-by date,
Right.
which are made up dates. There's no rules to this. There's only
They don't figure
like
out
two
why.
types of food, which include baby formula and the other one I forget now, that actually have laws saying that you can't sell it after a certain date.
Uh-huh.
The rest of it doesn't matter. Now, it may not taste as good. It may, and if it's something that can spoil, of course it could spoil, and go bad. But most things, especially canned goods, can last for years.
Yeah.
So don't be ever afraid of an expiration date or a sell-by date
That's
because it's
true.
not really an expiration date. It's just the sell-by date.
You know that what's his name? The French man that was years and years ago, Napoleon.
Yes.
Okay. He had canned goods for his armies.
Mm-hmm.
And many years after everybody was gone, they found some and they opened them up and the food was still good.
Sure.
You
And
know?
sealed. So
Yeah.
you don't know. I would be a little afraid of the lead that might have been in the
That's
metal,
true.
but
That's true.
but other than that, yeah, it can last for years and years and years.
Yep.
But so we'll take donations from anywhere, but there's also a certain aspect that you have to think about with pantries. And so this is a philosophy that I've used for our pantry, but I also try to convey this to other pantries, which I'll explain my connection with other pantries in just a second. But that is that we have a responsibility to feed people with good, nutritious food.
Mm-hmm.
By giving them garbage food, you're not doing them any favor,
No.
right? And I'll explain that in just a second also a little bit further so you understand what I mean by that. But so when we're getting it, we mostly buy the food that we give out. So it's good, fresh food, and it's staple items so that it'll have some longevity on the shelf, and it'll it's something that'll have a nutritional value to the person.
Mm-hmm.
We also, for our pantry, for the full pantry day, we try to give out enough food to feed a family of 4 for 4 days. So, that covers most of a week. If those families go to 3 or 4 pantries, they're basically covering, their most of
All
the
their
month.
needs, or
Yeah.
most of them.
And what I was saying about that we want to make sure that we're giving nutritious food is there's a new thing coming up too, which is called food as medicine. So it's a new concept on how to deal with people and food. So what they're finding out that people who have better diets are eating healthier foods, especially fruits and vegetables, which we also always have some forms of fruit and vegetables at the pantry. They tend to have better health outcomes. Now, why? It's lowering the number of doctor visits, especially people in at-risk neighborhoods who might be suffering from diabetes, which is more prevalent, or hypertension, especially in the black community. We know that that's a problem in that community. So by giving foods that are maybe lower in sodium or higher good calorie content, or more protein, now we can actually give them hope that their life will be better because they're healthier, right? So you're improving their lives just by helping them eat better. And we all know that a lot of adverse areas or at-risk neighborhoods, we like to call them, are also what we call food deserts. And what do I mean by food deserts? Is that they're the availability of, decently priced and large selection foods, which usually are only from supermarkets, because the local bodega is not going to have an in-depth selection, and will have much higher prices.
Sure.
There's not many supermarkets in those neighborhoods. For instance, we're at Castle and Corners. I'm sorry, we're on Castle and Avenue. Where's the nearest supermarket there?
I guess you got to go all the way over to Stop and Shop in Port Richmond.
about 2 miles away
Yeah, about
that
that.
you'd have to take at least one bus, if not two, to get to.
Right.
Try carrying 5 bags of groceries on a bus. Good
Right.
luck.
Yeah.
Or you have your cart that you have to wheel around. The other one is Key Foods up on Forest Avenue, but again, it's about a mile and a half away, and it's a lot more expensive.
I was going to say that.
So people, who live in at-risk neighborhoods suffer from, one, that they get higher charges for groceries, so it costs them more. Thus, they depend on pantries and soup kitchens, etc., to help them supplement it. And then they also, just the transportation becomes a huge inconvenience for them.
Sure, I'm waiting
So-
for the bus in the hot sun. On the way here tonight, almost every bus stop had at least one or two people standing on it waiting for a bus.
Exactly. So this is, it's a real problem in these neighborhoods. And by running the food pantries in these neighborhoods, we can really help alleviate these problems. So, and food is medicine comes in another aspect, which is a really exciting project that I've gotten involved with lately, which is called the Demonstration Waiver 1115. This is a state-run program that's going to provide food, prepared meals to Medicaid recipients. So if you're on Medicaid, you can sign up for this program and you will get a week's worth of groceries every week or prepared meals every week that will feed you and your family for the week. And I just had one today because we were doing a test on it, and it was delicious. It was, a lasagna Alexandra, which was basically lasagna made with vegetables.
Wow.
And
Vegetable
the
lasagna.
idea is that you're not just giving them junk food, but you're giving them here a well-balanced
Yeah.
meals. There's also what we call medically tailored meals, or medically prescribed meals,
Or
which
like if
is
you're diabetic or something.
yes, exactly. So you want to make sure like
So how do
low
people
sodium.
sign up for this?
So that's going to be coming out very shortly. Actually, the state was supposed to make the award announcement today, but they pushed it off by a week. So very shortly, hopefully by September, everybody who's on Medicaid will be getting a notice that this is available.
Oh, so they'll be able to hook up because they get a notice.
Right. So, and they'll have to go through a screening process to make sure that they qualify for it, which is pretty much if you're on Medicaid,
Which
you
is
do.
good, yeah.
And then they'll also be able to get it for their family members who live with them, because the idea is when we started exploring this idea, it was like, well, how is that going to really help somebody? You have 3 people in your household. You're on Medicaid, but the others aren't. So now how does that help you? You get food, but what are you doing for the other 2 people?
Right.
So now you're going to still have to cook and shop for those people, which just puts you back in the exact same adverse situation that you were in anyway. So they have opened it up now that they could do it. And this is a 3-year project that hopefully, if they can prove that there are significant, which is already research done to prove this, but that's why they call it a demonstration waiver, that if they can demonstrate that there'll be a less health risk to these people because their nutrition goes up and thus their health becomes better, lowers doctor visits, lowers hospital visits, lowers especially the problematic things that come out of some of these diseases like diabetes, where you can get, the open sores, neuropathy, where you can't move around, you wind up being in nursing facilities, or long-term care facilities. These are very expensive solutions
I'm sure.
that
yeah.
are being paid for by the state. So even a 20% drop will mean billions of dollars in savings for the state.
Wow, that's wonderful.
So this is a new concept that's been bandied about for a few years, but it's finally becoming practical. So we're really excited about it and to be at the leading edge and bringing this to the community. What I wanted to get back to a little bit was that what our relationship is with the food pantries on Staten Island. And that is, this year I had the honor of being named the chair of the Staten Island Hunger Task Force. And what the Hunger Task Force was started about 15 years ago by civic-minded people who are already involved in food insecurity on Staten Island. And they found the need that if we could communicate better between the pantries, share resources, share knowledge, that we could also then, help a larger group of people. So we have a website. It's called hungryonstatenisland.com. It's not a nonprofit. It's just a group of people from different organizations that run food insecurity programs to come together and offer solutions. So if you are in need of food assistance, you can go to Hungry on Staten Island. There's a map on there with all the pantries that we know about and what their operation hours are and some contact information. So you can then find out about them, contact them, and start going to these different pantries
So
around
that's
Staten
how you
Island.
would find out where the pantries are?
Correct.
By going to Hungry on Staten Island.
Yep. And there's also resources on there about nutrition and cooking, etc. And part of the Food as Medicine program is also going to include things like nutrition classes that'll be held in neighborhoods, not some faraway place that you can't get to. It'll be right in the neighborhood. Like we'll be hosting them, cooking demonstrations and classes to how to prepare the meals. A lot of times people don't even know that there's vegetables out there that are delicious because they're not familiar with them.
Yeah.
And especially now that we're becoming more diverse and, there's so many other vegetables that other cultures use that we don't know as Americans. And because of the influx of the migrant community, we're finding out about them. And a lot of them are delicious,
Yeah.
but we don't know how to cook them. So,
Can you name any?
there's several Asian ones, which the names just escape me sometimes. But Swiss chard is
I've heard of that.
I've it's become one of my favorite vegetables, but nobody ever heard of it until about 10 years ago, and it's becoming more popular. And it's a little bit bitter, but it has a really nice soft flavor to it, and you saute it like you do spinach.
Ah.
But it gives you a nicer texture and a different, more earthly flavor to it. And so I actually grow it in my community garden plot, and I just harvested the other night.
Community garden down on Castleton Avenue?
So no, well, we actually partner with them. That's the Hochul Community Garden. That's actually one of the city parks department ones. And we actually bring our youth groups there to do community service there, help clean it up. We have our own little plot there. But I have one, I live over in Castleton Corners. So we have one at the Moravian Hill Church there. And I have my own little plot. We call it square foot gardening, so it's only a 4 foot by 4 foot plot, but you'd be surprised what you can grow in one of those. So, and I'm really excited, but because my tomatoes are ripening right now, but
Oh, that's good. It must be good.
some little animal got one of them.
Oh,
I don't know
well,
what it
they
was.
gotta
I come
eat
over the
too.
other day and there it was half eaten. I was like, oh.
Animals got to eat too.
True. But that's a very important part of nutrition too, is eating vegetables and fruits.
Yeah.
They're loaded with antioxidants. They're loaded with different vitamins and substances that your body needs to survive. And a lot of people, especially like we were talking about the food desert, they don't have that availability. So, and the other thing that I'm trying to combat in at-risk neighborhoods is, and I think it's a scourge on the food insecurity business right now, because we've become too accustomed to just ordering what we want. But when you order through Uber and or DoorDash or
Pizza and all that.
yes, it's the nutritional value is negligible at best, and it might taste great, but what is it doing for you? Again, it's not helping your health. It's really actually having a lot of adverse effects on your health.
Probably, yeah.
And I'm just going to throw this out there that happy people tend to be more spiritual people, that they tend to want to help other people more. So it's one of those domino effects that if you're better, you're going to try to help other people improve their lives too. So it just grows and grows, and it's the old thing about paying it forward. That's with food insecurity. It's the same thing. So by us being able to help people who have food insecurity issues, then they don't have that as a block to their lives anymore. It's not holding them back anymore. So now that maybe they can go out and get a better job. maybe they can help their neighbor with something.
What about, I mean, most of these people I imagine are eligible for food stamps.
Yes, yes. Generally speaking, that's true. But again, you have to go to a store that takes them. You
That's
have the
true. Yeah, that's right.
transportation issue.
Yes.
The one good thing that's coming out is that people who are on food stamps or WIC will be able to actually use it remotely and have the food delivered, which the big supermarkets now will do for them.
Well, that's good.
So that came up about 5 or 6 years ago. They started that. So, but again, you need internet connection because you got to go online or at least your phone to
Well, yeah,
order your
most
food.
people, no matter how poor you are, they usually have a phone.
Something, yeah. Nowadays, well, that's our lifeline.
That's
you know?
right. I mean,
So-
not that it's a bad thing. It's
Right.
a good thing that they can do that. And a lot of these phones are free anyway, too.
Correct. And there's programs to help people, lower income people, to get phones for free or low cost.
Right.
So you just got to look for those. I know Verizon and a few of the other manufacturers, providers have, like T-Mobile, they have programs that you can look into if you're lower income.
Well, they are kind of necessary in this day and age.
It's, like I said, it's our lifeline now.
Now it is, yeah. I mean, I remember growing up. What did we know from cell phones, you know?
But you always had a phone in the house,
Oh, yeah. Well,
so you
yeah,
always could make that call.
that's
But you had to
true.
go home.
Yes, that's right. And you have to
So-
be home to get the call.
Right. But yeah, so we're very proud of the work that the Hunger Task Force has been doing on Staten Island to educate people. I'm very excited about everything else that's going on in the food pantries. I will mention also that, funding for food pantries is extremely important. So any kind of a donation, while food is more than always welcome, monetary donations can help even more because we can buy the food in different places
Right.
and to provide them with it. So it's easier than where you don't have to worry about carrying it through. You make a donation, $25, that can feed a family for a day.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure. Brian, you want to put that page up about that you can tell people where they can donate? There we go. A Chance in Life, The Village, 1100 Castleton Avenue, Staten Island, New York, 10310. That's to write to is there, and there's a .com or .org it would be, right?
yes, so you can email me directly if you want more information. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
You want to put up the email address?
So yeah, it's actually in the middle there. It's chris@achanceandlife.org.
Oh, it's up.
But
on
you can
top.
also go, if you want to make a direct donation, you can go to chanceandlife.org online and donate there. You can also find out about all the wonderful programs that we're running around the world. And again, we're not just a food pantry. We run youth education, leadership, and development programs constantly throughout the year.
I remember a spa day that you had a little while back. That was very interesting.
That was a Women's Appreciation Day
And then
that
it was
we
all
ran.
volunteers taking care of the people?
That was some of the best organizations and companies on Staten Island came down to offer their services
Yeah.
and information to the local people in
They were
in
giving
West
back
Brighton.
and neck massages, hand massages. They were doing facials, hair. They were doing everything that day, and just in just in your pantry there.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun too.
They were even giving away jewelry.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And just last Tuesday, we had a barbecue
That's
for the
right.
community.
That's right.
So we fed about 150 people who came we did the regular pantry light day or the free market, and then we also had a barbecue because it was tough to do it the week of 4th of July because we would have had to do it on the Tuesday the Tuesday right before the 4th of July. So we figured that we'd do it the next week to give something back to the community that way. So
People
we're always
enjoyed it. I saw that.
yeah, we're having a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
the kids, I mean, we actually just did a post. So if you go to our social media, you'll see our post this week was about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I always get a kick out of the kids, especially the smaller kids. They're
Oh, they're
just
so cute.
so
You
cute
know,
and their big smiles. And
I was in the Dollar Tree, and I came across this little tiny little doll. Okay, it was a little doll, so I picked it up for $1.25, right? Because there's this little girl there that's there with her mother and her aunt. So I said to the little girl, I said, she can't be more than 2, maybe. I said, oh, watch what I got for you. She came with me. I gave her the doll, and she's so I asked the aunt and the mother when I see them, especially if the little girl's not with them, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's her baby." She goes like this.
They're just so cute.
They
It's
are.
so enjoyable too. It just during the rest of the year, we'll run other events too, like an Easter event. We'll have the Easter Bunny there. A holiday event where we have Santa giving out toys. Actually, in 2 weeks, we'll be partnering with the UFT, United Federation of Teachers, for a large back to school event that
Yeah.
they're running at one of the schools, and through a partnership with New York Cares, who you might know from coat drives. They do a bunch of other stuff. So we got an extremely generous donation from them of 500 backpacks loaded with supplies
Nice.
that we'll be giving out at that event, and a couple others that we participate in. So through these events, we are impacting literally thousands of people on Staten Island every year,
That's
just
wonderful.
through our organization. And if you take it, extrapolate it out to all these other pantries and all these other organizations doing the good work here, there's 180,000 people who live on the North Shore of Staten Island, which has a demographic that mirrors the city of New York, almost, within a few percentage points, but also is worse economically than most of the other neighborhoods in the city. So some of the neighborhoods in the North Shore are some of the worst in the city economically.
Really?
So yeah, and especially we have a real problem with unemployment for teens and young adults. That's way above the city's average. So sometimes when you look at statistics for Staten Island, I just want to point this out, that don't believe them, because they're skewed, because the Staten Island is there's such a dichotomy on Staten Island. The North Shore, South Shore problem is that it masks, because there's such wealth on the South Shore, it masks that there's such need on the North Shore. So people don't realize it. They say, "Oh, Staten Island, that's a rich place. It's a country club,"
Oh, sure.
but not the North Shore.
Not the North Shore is right.
Right.
I've
So
lived on the North Shore all my life.
same here. Same here.
Yes.
So,
So I mean, I know, and I see it. I watched the West Brighton projects go up. I was on the school bus, and we would the bus driver would pick us up to go to school, and swing around, and I saw those projects little by little going up.
well, actually, my family worked for the housing authority for a long time. My
Yeah.
father was the chief of office services. My uncle was director of personnel. My
Oh boy.
aunt was a leader in the construction department. So we've all worked. My brother was a police officer for them. So I experienced the housing. I worked for them for several years myself earlier in my life. We know what the housing authority is all about, and there's some wonderful aspects of it, but unfortunately, a lot of these places are getting old now. Actually, the West Brighton houses are slated to be demolished and rebuilt, and that could
The whole
start
that
the
that,
whole
that
thing.
that's a
They're
big
working out
project.
they're working out the plan on how to do it,
Oh.
and because it's going to displace a lot of families, and so they're trying to figure out how
Not
to
only
do it
that,
on a
but where
large
do you
scale.
put all the stuff from the buildings that you take down?
Well, it's a huge project,
Yeah.
but they were supposed to start it like within a year, at least, somewhat. But it's very low key. They've been keeping it low key because they don't really have an official plan for it yet. But we've been told from the Economic Development Corporation and some of the civic associations that they've been contacted about it. So there's going to be some major movements there, and that's the oldest, one of the oldest. I think actually probably the oldest housing project on Staten Island.
Is it really? I
It's
thought
close,
that
if not the oldest. It's one
maybe
in the top three.
not the
'Cause-
one down on Richmond Terrace. Forget the other name of the street. The gray buildings that were
Yeah, no, those are actually newer.
those
Yeah,
are newer.
yeah.
Really?
So, but these ones were built in the early '60s, I believe.
That's right,
So,
because
yeah.
I was in grammar school, the early years of grammar school, and yes, and I remember every morning passing
'Cause
by.
it was the Stapleton houses were built around the same time.
Yeah. I know that they took down the Markham Homes down the street
Yep.
on Broadway and Richmond Terrace,
Right.
and rebuilt everything. It looks nice.
Yeah, I mean, and it, there was a change. It's a shame that a lot of the building concepts that were used, especially in the 50s and 60s, are really outdated now, and they were more concerned with just housing, creating mass housing, as opposed to giving livable space.
Yeah, yeah.
So while they thought they were doing a nice thing by putting some trees and playgrounds and stuff in it, um, there was also a lot of racism inherent in a lot of what they did.
Really?
Yeah, because it was basically to cordon off or control certain ethnic groups.
Oh boy.
So there's actually a story which blew my mind when I heard this story, that Robert Moses was one of the main architects in the 50s and 60s and 40s too, in New York City, doing a lot
familiar
of
with
the
the
main
name, yeah.
infrastructure, and especially for housing projects, but also for the roads. And if you ever take a look at a map, you will see that there was no care about building major roads right through poor neighborhoods. But if you notice, there's none going through rich neighborhoods.
That's true.
Okay, and that was on purpose.
Well, when they built the projects, I have to say that they took away I guess probably a closer to poor Italian neighborhood that was down there with a church called Saint Benedicta,
Oh, right, right.
and that church came down too, and the whole neighborhood got wiped out.
Eminent domain.
They had their arms twisted to sell to the city, and the neighborhood got wiped out, and the projects all went up. And then Saint Benedicta combined with Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and they called it Our Lady of Mount Carmel Saint Benedicta, and now they've added Saint Mary's to the mix.
Yep. So, and the story about Robert Moses was one of the things that he built when he built the Southern State Parkway going out to Long Island. He purposely made all the overpasses too small to have buses go through them.
Nice.
And that was to stop people of certain colors or
Because they would most
ethnic
likely
groups
be traveling on
to
a
go to the
bus.
beach. Yes, they wouldn't be driving; they would be going out on
Wow,
a bus to the beach,
terrible.
and it was on purpose.
Yeah.
And I was shocked by this. That there was such well, we still know it, that there's still such inherent racism.
Well, sure there
and
is.
bigotry in the world.
Oh yeah.
So it's just when I heard that, though, I was like, wow, that even in my lifetime, this stuff has been happening
Oh yeah.
in a formal way, in an organized way.
Mm.
So, and he admitted it later on too, before he died, that he purposely did some of these things and planned certain
Nice
things.
of him to admit it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, long
Too
past
late.
due, but yeah. but yeah, I would just talk about pantries and food insecurity as a gateway to bring it back full circle to about spirituality. That's a gateway to people's hearts and minds, because when again, I talked about when somebody's happier, when they're fulfilled, when they have a full belly, they can
And they
accept
don't have
other
to
things.
worry about where the next meal is coming from.
Yeah, they can explore the spirituality in life. They can see that by being a good person, it's having a real effect on somebody. So their spirituality increases, and thus then the domino effect again, where people see them being better off, so they are happier.
And God's looking down on all this and smiling.
Yeah, and we're I always like to say that we're doing God's work, because
I agree. That's
in
why
the
we're
pantry
here.
business. Yeah,
Yeah, that's why I said this is a spiritual thing. Let's make a show.
great.
You
I
know,
thought it was a
and-
wonderful idea.
I think so, and I'm glad we're here doing this, and you've been very interesting. But continue.
Well, I mean, my main concern is that we haven't stopped yet, and that there's still a great deal of need out there.
Well, because you have all these young people involved, I think that this work can go on for generations.
Absolutely, and I think it's. I like to call ourselves stewards of the community, as both as a chance in life, but as individuals too, because we have an obligation, not just to offer programming or offer pantry, but to live and be the example so that, people see what we're doing as an organization and will realize that, oh, you know, I'm not going to throw that garbage on the ground because here I see the kids, we make the kids go out and pick up garbage every week
They should.
on up and down Castleton Avenue.
I have to admit, and it irks me to death to see that some people in the neighborhood, they're done with a cup, they throw it in the street. They're done with a chicken bone and they throw it in the street. And that's not good because a dog could come along
I choke on
and
it.
choke on it
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, but
And
they
it'll
just
bring
don't
rodents
care.
and,
That's right.
it-
Bring, yeah, varmints. Yeah,
so, yeah, and I just think that it's a wonderful way of teaching them to be responsible for their own living area.
that's
And to
right.
break that cycle that it's okay to do these things.
Yeah.
That it's not okay. That
That's right.
and we have to live by that example.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you I'm a little bit of a nut job about recycling.
Oh, me too.
So, and it's like, it's like really pulling teeth sometimes to get them to understand why it's important.
It's important because you're
but
not filling up the dumps.
the constant you have to reinforce it constantly every day. And that's what I'm saying about being a steward. It's not easy. This is hard work.
Yes,
And
I'm
you
sure.
you have to constantly be on them, reminding them about it. And you'll be surprised that some of them get it right away. Some of them it takes a little while. Some, it just
Some you can't get through to it all.
And we do a thing called positive youth development. That's our model that we use. And it's called the 5 C's. I won't get too into it, but the idea is that if you reinforce good behavior instead of always picking on bad behavior, you'll get through to the child, to the young adult better than you will by being negative.
Yes.
So, just to put that, in perspective, it's about teaching them things like compassion, concern, community.
Sympathy, empathy.
Exactly. And these are important characteristics that once you develop them, you carry them your whole life. You never
Wow.
forget these things.
They become part of your personality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's our responsibility as adults to teach them that. And that's part of what pantries do too, is, we were talking about it a little bit earlier, is that we find that, we use what we call a shopping experience at the full pantry. So what is that about? It's about taking away the stigma that somebody's asking for help by pairing them up with a volunteer who acts as like their personal shopper, walks them through the pantry, explains what new products we have this week, what's going on. Oh, how many of these do you need? You need extra? Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You need an extra milk because you have 4 children in your home. One milk's not going to cover it. This is the type of things and it builds the rapport between the people who are attending the pantry and the people who are running and helping at the pantry. So it really creates a bond. One thing I love about our pantry is that we have fun with it too, because of this bond that we've created with so many community members like yourself. That we've talked many times. And I know that you come to the pantry also to help other people.
Yes.
So, there's an altruism there from your aspect, and I respect that, and we want to nurture that. But it makes it fun, and then so we're helping people not just to get food, but also be better people. So the volunteers become better people, the community members become better people.
Especially when you see the fruits of your labors.
Exactly. So we just find it so fulfilling at that level.
Sure.
And sometimes I walk out exhausted at the end of the day, but boy, do I have a good feeling inside.
You should, because you're doing something beautiful. You're doing something very spiritual. And God bless you for this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
He's watching, and I'm sure he's there with his hand out to help too.
Well, I'll hope he'll look at me next week when I go through open heart surgery.
That's right, and we need to say a prayer for you, that you have a successful surgery and that you heal well and that you have a lot of years ahead of you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, and I got to say that just the outpouring of the nonprofit community, but everybody that I interact with who has found out about it has just been wonderful because it makes me feel like there's going to be no problem. I have so many people
You have a
praying for
lot,
me
that's right, and a
that
lot of positive thoughts,
and energy. Yeah.
and a lot of people like you.
Oh, thank you.
They do. I'm saying, hey, what's not to like? Look at what you're doing. Anybody that doesn't like you is crazy.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so,
Anyway, though, so any plans to open up any more, or
well, through the Hunger Task Force, we're really trying to nail that down so that we have a lot of different of the pantries on Staten Island working together. I already have several different things going on with that. We're just putting out a survey this week to gather information about what the pantries are doing, how many are they serving, et cetera, so we can get a real feel of what hunger on Staten Island looks like. So, and we do this every year. And, unfortunately, the data collection can be a little spotty at times, but, you know, there's a lot of people who need help on Staten Island. And that shocked me when I saw the results last year, when I was just the vice chair of it. And I said, we have to make sure we expand this out so we're getting more accurate data. So we're going to be doing a real push over the next month to contact the pantries, get this data back, work on it with them to make sure that they're collecting the data properly. But then there's also there's a collective impact is a very popular model that is used in the nonprofit world. And the idea is that your impact can be enhanced and magnified by working with other organizations. So that's what we're always trying to do. The New York Cares with the coat drive,
holding
the back,
hands.
yeah, and sharing resources. There's,
Yeah.
a lot of times people get siloed. What siloed means is that they only see they're blind.
Right.
They only see their own work.
Uh-huh.
And they don't realize that there's a bigger effect to it and there's a ripple effect to it. So what happens is they just want to worry about their money coming in so that they can serve their population, have their programs. But really, when we share those resources, it's uplifting everybody.
That's right.
And that it'll help make more resources available to their own constituency, et cetera.
Is there a list of the pantries on the island?
Well,
anywhere?
Hungry on Staten Island has that complete list, so it's a map too, so you can put in your address and it'll show you who's in your neighborhood.
Who's around?
And then there's also an app called the Plentiful app, which was developed originally by City Harvest, but they sold it because it became a very popular platform. We actually use it for our data collection. I'm developing a new one in-house using Salesforce. But this one was a very good, robust platform to run your pantry. So we're trying to get more pantries to use more sophisticated and modern technological ways of data collection and managing their pantries through the Hunger Task Force, so that we can better see what the problems are there and help also address where they are so that we can say, we need another pantry on Staten Island here.
Right.
There's Chassis, the Community Health Action of Staten Island has a new mobile pantry van.
Oh, nice.
That they can, send anywhere. So we've already talked to them about having a couple of pantries like in Stapleton a month, where we know that there's a pocket, even though there's like Project Hospitality has their pantry there, and as UAME Church does theirs. But there's some other areas in Stapleton, in not Fort Wadsworth, in Tompkinsville, that aren't covered by them. So, and sometimes it's a language barrier too. So, we're working on maybe they can go out to these other areas. And it's a reasonable thing. They can feed about 250 people a day with
Nice.
basically fruits and vegetables and some staple items. And it costs like $500
Wow,
to go
not
out.
bad.
So we're working with some other organizations to fund that and to send them to neighborhoods that are underserved. So this is the innovative thinking that, we were so happy when we found out about this because I'm like, genius. Here's something that we didn't think of before. that we can impact people right in their local neighborhoods so much easier. And, they get funding for it. This is becoming a popular thing for them, but it's going to do so much good in the communities that I think it's a wonderful idea. But it's thinking outside the box and not just doing the same old, same old. That sometimes we have to, find better ways. And that's where, the recognizing the different aspects, that there's a food desert here, that there's a lack of transportation. That's something we haven't really talked about yet.
You have to look
But-
into all these things.
Yeah, that there's a huge problem on Staten Island with transportation.
In the meantime, our time's just about up.
Oh,
And I
Once you
thank
get me talking.
This has been so interesting, and I'm sure that we're putting out into the universe some wonderful information.
I hope so.
And God bless you for what you do.
Thank you.
And I want to thank everyone who's been watching. And I hope that if you have a need, get in touch, and this gentleman will be more than happy to help you. Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what we're all about. And I just want to say, Christine, thank you so much for having me on the show
No
again.
problem.
If I
We'll
didn't
do it again
express that
sometime
enough,
down in the future.
I really, I'm so grateful that we were able to get this message.
I am
today.
so happy too. I really am. I'm glad it was a good idea. And everybody, have a good night.